You know, when you were saying that you were traumatized when the doctor told you you had scoliosis, and there's 4 areas that we use to control metabolism. So hold up your finger, and I want you to test, did I lose control of what I ate when I was told that?
Yes, I lost control of just about everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did is how the quick weight loss diet can be sabotaged by dysfunction, emotional eating, those kinds of things. That we have the ability to control our metabolism, and we've been teaching people how to do that 4 ways. And one of those ways is eating, and the other ones are by elimination, including every type of physical elimination, exercise, and also the rhythm of waking, sleeping, rest, and movement, and just generally the what follows what, how you set up and organize your day and yourself so that you always feel good. If you don't feel good, you're probably putting on weight or stopping yourself from losing weight. Would you guys agree with that?
Agreed.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what we have to feel good. If we're not feeling good, it's a signal that we've got to change something. Now, the 4 things that we do, sometimes we're doing all of them perfectly, and we're still not feeling good because we're dysfunctional. We're doing something dysfunctional. And people manage the rhythm of their day in dysfunctional ways. They don't just eat emotionally, they sleep or stay awake emotionally. So I'd like to hear stories about how your dysfunctions have disrupted your ability to control your metabolism. That's what I want to personal experiences, because you're both successful. And I think when you're successful, it's because you catch yourself doing these things and stop or start what you have to do or have to stop doing. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So rack your brains. Can you remember anything? Like, what comes into your mind when you think about where you ate emotionally, or you refused to exercise, or exercise too much, or at the wrong time of day, or you exercised in a way that made you eat dysfunctionally?
There was a time when I didn't exercise. I have always loved taking walks in the woods or going by bicycle. But when my sister was at the hospital, I couldn't do that because I was spending all the time in the hospital. Because I could be there for an hour at lunchtime and then again an hour in the evening, but it wasn't handy to come and go because the hospital was about 60 kilometers from here. So I went there, I stayed with her for an hour, and then I stayed in the hospital, going around in the courtyard. I had my MP3, I brought some books to read to kill the time, but I couldn't exercise. And that changed my habits. When I was told that I had emphysema, in the beginning, I had a refusal, and I didn't want to go out, okay? I didn't want to walk, I didn't want to cycle. I was refusing the reality. So I was totally dysfunctional. And then little by little, I resumed doing my exercise, going out, even if it was cold or on a rainy day.
Well, test this here.
Warm.
I have something for you to test in the middle of this story.
Okay.
I want you to test that when you were told you had emphysema, was that an emotional shock for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Barb, you should test this too about her.
Karen got a yes, I got a yes.
Oh, Karen, stick your head in the picture so we can see you.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Karen.
Hello there.
Hi, we're here for you.
This is you know what this movie is about? It's about the quick weight loss diet, and you're welcome to chime in anytime you think you have something you can add to it, okay? Because I could see that you've been successful at controlling your weight also. So, so you had an emotional shock, and the emotional shock, basically emotional shocks cause people to lose control of their metabolism.
Yes. And I know I was totally dysfunctional because when the doctor told me, he told me in such a way, I felt like he was trying to punish me. He told me, he was very calm, sitting at his desk, looking at his papers after my exams, and he told me, well, he asked me some questions, and then he told me, okay, now I'm going to tell you about your situation, the situation of your lungs. It is simply catastrophic.
Oh
and I felt, I've never felt so scared in my life. And he told me, if you don't quit smoking immediately, it's gonna get very serious. So when I walked out of the hospital, I got into the car with shaking legs, and guess what I did? The first thing I did was lighting one.
You lit up a cigarette.
Yes.
So in addition, see, here's okay. Let's talk about smoking in the context of the quick weight loss diet, because you know a lot of people smoke to lose weight. Did you know that?
No, I never did. Yes, I know, but I never did that.
Yeah. Well, the fact is that when you smoke, you're taking in something.
Yes.
That you then have to compensate for by eating things. And so you're giving yourself a problem with elimination and also with ingestion.
Yes.
That's what smoking does. You're simply you're handing problems to yourself. Smoking would cause people to, you know, at some point ultimately put on weight.
People who smoke?
People who smoke will ultimately put on weight. Like in the short term, they may lose weight by smoking, but in the long term, they'll end up gaining weight by smoking.
I didn't know that.
Yes, and a lot of weight. Because they eat to compensate for the dysfunction that the discomfort that they've given themselves with the smoking.
Yeah.
Now, Barb, do you have what are you doing with your camera's going back and forth?
My camera has an auto zoom, I guess. Every time I move, it adjusts itself. I must have a setting.
It creates interesting shots. So,
Yes.
What's your take on this as you've been listening? What in your personal experience?
Well, I mean, I've never been a smoker of cigarettes, but I have been a smoker of things, and and I never thought of it. And it is true that it's taking in something, because it does usually curb an appetite in the short term. And I was also though recalling back when I was 17, I never thought of this when I was told by in a very professional setting by a very professional doctor that I had a catastrophic disease, and I remember going into shock, and I was thinking maybe that is what happened, because that was when I kind of stopped eating for a while. I was 17. I just totally contracted. When I was told I had scoliosis, I was really scared. I mean, I didn't realize it at the time. I remember just freezing up, and everything went blurry, and I was in shock, I realized. And then I was hours away from our home, and we had to drive home, and I remember just being in shock. And then that whole period lasted 2-4 years, and then
well, let's look at the control of metabolism in the context of this, dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
When you were told like that you had scoliosis, did you lose control of your metabolism? Test that question.
Yeah, I felt like everything, yes, everything just fell away.
Okay, so you got a signal on that. Now, let's take which specific thing. Did you lose, hold your hand up so we can see your test.
I also wanted to add that I feel like right now I have really good control of my metabolism, especially I'm learning how to, especially now that I'm alone, which is probably a gift, to notice the ebbs and flows of my metabolism and just, rest and then work and then rest and then work.
It's easier to control your metabolism when you're not eating with somebody else every day.
I'll say, yeah, I'm really learning about myself.
And so people who want to control their metabolism and who live with a family, like they have their kids and their husband or their wife or whatever, they have to learn to only eat what's good for them and to serve other people other things. Like Franny and I live together, but we eat completely different meals.
Yeah, I'm like that. I was like that whenever I lived in groups. I had to really learn to eat what I knew to eat because I had a unique diet almost my whole life.
Well, sometimes I eat the things she'll cook something that I'll eat, but her meal is still different from mine. Like she'll cook, several things and I'll eat one of them, or I'll cook several things and she'll eat one of them.
Yeah, I remember. Karen had something to say.
Hey, Byard. Hi, Rosella. I wanted to address the emotional thing before the eating to impact metabolism. When a doctor tells you that you are to blame for your condition, number one, which is an emotional charge, and number two, that you have a condition that may have certain amount of time and implications towards its being healed at all, and of course that you need them for that rather than yourself, which is very helpless. Your immune system is going to suffer immediately.
So the message here is stay away from the doctor when you're talking about. Don't discuss your diet or eating with your doctor, for God's sake, because.
Well, the thing that I'm saying is there's an emotional part of this that has you feel not in control of your own biosphere and your body, and now you need someone else that's way beyond your mental, emotional, immediate connectors around that. You know what I mean? You've now lost relationship. You've abandoned yourself to a doctor, maybe on some level, because you have to trust them or you wouldn't have gone there to begin with. So, yeah, I'm testing yes. And then, so there's an emotional component here that has the immune system suffer so that there's an abandonment. And then you need to fill the hole of that. And that's the eating disorder and everything else that comes. And there are people that I know who are smokers who were diagnosed. This is interesting with addiction, particularly cigarette, is when they're diagnosed with emphysema, they are helpless, hopeless. They feel now that they can't do anything, now diagnosed with that. So what am I trying to say here? I'm sorry. Something about recovery of self.
Where you have to recover yourself to, to lose weight, basically.
Well, I think what happens, everything after that's compensation for something that you've already been hopeless, shamed, and guilty about.
Well, also, there's something else we should mention, which is the doctor is almost always wrong when they tell you what to eat. They just simply don't know what you should be eating. And I had two girlfriends who both had gallbladders removed. And they were put on they lost their gallbladders because they did a doctor's diet. The doctor recommended their diet to them.
And they're not trained in nutrition.
And they stayed strictly on the diet the doctor recommended, and it destroyed their gallbladders. And the diet was a protein diet. It was different doctors, different women, different situations, but the diet was similar. They were both high-protein diets.
Well, I think they should stick to diagnosis, which they do poorly anyway, and we all know that. because they don't take the time to know your history or you. And then secondly, they're going to give you something about nutrition to help them feel better about how they care for you, and they have no intention or ability to take care of you after you leave. So we got a system that doesn't work, but doctors don't empower people because they don't know how to do that, and they don't have the training to do that. So people will leave with a diagnosis that disables them, disempowers them,
well, Ross,
abandons themselves.
that was your story, Ross, right?
Absolutely, I agree totally.
Basically, she's telling your story, except in your case, you knew me.
Yes.
And you pulled.
And I changed the doctor.
You pulled yourself out of it. You got another doctor, and also you stopped smoking.
Yes.
And you're recovering from your emphysema now.
And when I told my new doctor I had quit smoking, he was smiling and he was happy, you know. He looked like a son and he told me, "Good, you've been wonderful, my compliments." He encouraged me a lot. The other one was doing the opposite. You know, he was terrible. And I wasn't the only patient having problems with him. This is what my MD, my medical practitioner told me. He told me, "You're not the only one complaining about that doctor." You know, and then he did something else to me. Probably he wasn't satisfied. I had to go for another check, and he called me and he told me, "You know, I prefer to send you to another hospital to do the eczema." And I said, "Okay, I'll go." And he told me, "You know, I don't do this frequently with my patients, but I'm doing it with you." He was really willing to hurt me,
right,
and scare me. I don't know why. And then I went to the other hospital, and
hold up
I went back to him
just
with,
hold up
with
your
the result.
Ross. I want you to test something. Hold up your hand, and just test. Was the doctor exporting an illness to me?
Yes.
So you see, people catch sicknesses from their doctors, and a lot of the sicknesses are they're not physical illnesses. They're they're dysfunctions. Dysfunctions are contagious, and sometimes they can be like the person pushes the dysfunction on other people. And a lot of times that is not even something that anybody is conscious of, the people or the person. Nobody sees it.
Byard, not only that, I think people feel connected in a superficial way. So you're actually cords and all kinds of things as if you're taken care of, or you're connected to the person in some superficial way when actually you're contaminating them. So lack of awareness doesn't allow a practitioner or a doctor to know that they're in fact infecting you.
Yes, they're trying to infect you without realizing it. And where's Barb?
Yes, of course.
Barb? I want to go back to what we were talking about the scoliosis.
Yeah.
Because you were in the middle of talking about the trauma and how you lost. See, what I wanted to do was.
I'm going backwards because I've had a lot of experience with food, and I was always, you know, athletic and had no problems with weight before that. Even I was still a small person, but that really knocked me. And then.
Yeah, you were an athlete in high school.
Yeah, I mean, all the way through, my childhood, that's what I was about, was sports and athletics. And then that, and I don't know if this, I'm just going to throw in the part about, you know, I'm gay. So there was that aspect of things going on too. But then as I started living with my family and with people and going to college, I lost my own ability to regulate myself more. So the way I regulated myself was just to, you know, cut off from things. And then I slowly learned how to feed myself with other people, including you, and another friend that I just found on Facebook again. from college, Barry Hughes, who was a person who was a vegetarian and a good cook and good eater, and I learned how to nourish myself. But then every time I got in a relationship, I seemed to lose my my own barometer, and
that is a very, very common thing, and we should really say a little something about that, that when people are in a relationship, they tend to lose control of their metabolism with the other person, because the other person has a different way of doing things, or the other person isn't controlling their metabolism.
Yes.
So they're sleeping at the wrong times and eating at the wrong times and having sex at the wrong times and doing everything out of rhythm.
Right.
And then they get hungry, they want to eat, and they're eating out of rhythm, so they gorge themselves on the wrong things. People eat at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, no, I never do that anymore. No. Hey, I wanted to say one more thing for people, because I remember the brief period, 3 or 4 years that I worked, in a corporate environment where where there was a set arrival time and a lunch time and a break time and a leaving time. That was really ruthless. I mean, I'm amazed that people can stay healthy at all with that kind of routine, having to eat lunch at a particular time and having to then drink coffee at a certain time.
They're already out of control of their metabolism just because they have a 9-to-5 job. And the thing that's, Ross, you have a job with odd hours. I noticed that you teach in the evening and so on. You're an English teacher, and I bet you have a lot of tricks that you use to keep your metabolism under control. And that's how you stay young and good looking.
I just don't eat dinner.
Oh,
once I used to come home late, because you have to realize that very often I come home at about 11 p.m.
Right.
Okay. So I used to just have a yogurt or something something small to eat. But recently, I just come home, drink a glass of water, and don't eat until the following day.
See, this is the successful people, and I want to really emphasize this, that people who are successful at controlling their metabolism have tricks, like the one that, it's a very simple trick, you don't eat dinner. You just make a rule and you stick to it. You never eat dinner. And that is a trick. That's what I call them. I call them little tricks, And it's tricks like that that enable people to keep control of their rhythm. Because, your rhythm is you're active, you're teaching, and then you come home, and you're inactive, you go to sleep. And if you ever tried to insert dinner in there, you would blow up like a balloon.
Yes. I have dinner, though, when I don't teach, for example, at the weekend, and I'm with my husband, and then I have dinner with him, even if very often at that time, let's say 7:30 or 8, I'm not hungry, because I'm not used to it at that time.
Yes, and see, that's another trick, which is to simply, like, if you can put the thing in at the appropriate time, then do it, even if you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And of course, since you don't feel like it, you'll eat less, and you'll eat in a more healthy way when you have dinner.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's very good to do things when you don't feel like doing them. This is the opposite of what most people tell you. They say, well, the way that you are going to control your metabolism, lose weight, be healthy, is to do things when you feel like it. When you feel like sleeping, you should sleep, and when you feel like eating, you should eat. And that's true. It's just not a truth that you should believe. Because I feel like sleeping, in the afternoon, and I do, and it works. But sometimes I don't feel like sleeping, and then I know I need to have a magnesium. See, that's a signal for me. If I don't feel like taking my nap at the usual time, it means that I'm deficient in magnesium. So I've learned how to read the signs.
Yeah.
See, it requires a huge amount of sophistication to control your metabolism. And this is why people do these diets and they lose weight and then they put the weight back on. Because
Exactly.
they never created the sophistication.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I don't go out for lunch, but people invite me out to lunch. I decided I don't do lunch.
Yeah, me neither. I never eat lunch. Out with people.
I'll drink juice or I'll have a. But
That's right. I eat a very Spartan lunch in my home, usually raw vegetables.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just what works for me, you know. And some people say, "Well, I skip dinner and I lose tons of weight," and that's their trick. My trick is I eat a good dinner. Dinner is a recreation for me, so my trick is to go with it.
Yeah.
And then I try to eat as healthfully as possible in dinner.
And then I also think the other trick or just habit I have had over the years that works is to not ever eat first thing when I wake up.
No, me too.
I never have done
Which
that.
flies in the face of what so many people say, oh, I have to eat a good breakfast. Mm-hmm. And that works for them. Mm-hmm. These different tricks work for different people. Like one of my tricks is I never have dessert.
Oh yeah, me neither.
I haven't had dessert for 1,000,000 years. Probably 30 years I've never eaten dessert. But what I realized was that if I have, like, let's say, chicken for dinner in the evening and has a lot of oil in the meal, I need to have some pineapple juice.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll have some pineapple and I'll put cranberry concentrate in it, and that just flushes out my gallbladder. I feel great overnight.
Yeah, that's what when I was invited to parties here in Santa Fe, you're supposed to bring something. I always bring a pineapple.
That's very smart. That's very smart. It was the high point of the evening for everybody.
Yeah,
their little slice of pineapple.
I got the pineapple. And
that's another trick. Bring a pineapple.
Yeah. What was I going to tell you also? Juicing pineapples. Well, I rarely eat bread, but then like someone makes bread on their own, like the other day. It was almost like this sacred, breaking of bread. I'll have a little bread, but I hardly eat bread. I always drink a lot of liquids and eat fruit and move a lot before I eat my first meal. Like here, it's already noon here, and I haven't eaten yet. But I feel fine. I've drank things and cheese and coffees and water and all that. I've walked and stretched. And I don't feel hungry, and I don't feel spread out.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't eat a big dinner last night either. I don't think I ate dinner. I think I had raisins or something like that.
So this is a day in the life of a skinny person. This is what we have to give people, the people who want the quick weight loss diet. Yeah. And they want to stay, sexy for the rest of their lives. And this is how you do it. This is a day in the life of a sexy lesbian.
And I went for a walk, in my mind I'm thinking, I wish I could, go out for dinner sometimes and all that. But I walk and I go past these restaurants with people just sitting at the table getting served, and it looks so boring. And I remember, I don't want to do that, and then having to have dessert, like you said. Like it felt I was trapped when I lived that lifestyle. Sometimes I didn't want to be there. It's fun when you have nothing to do afterwards, but to sit at a big meal and have to be served. And oftentimes now on holidays, I'm actually so grateful that I don't have to go to a big family gathering right away, or I can just come and go as I please. After all those years of, sitting with big feast. I remember even when I lived with you, Byard, and we had these huge meals, which were great with all the staff, and it took me years to. I was my heaviest when I lived with you at one point in Philadelphia, and I was like, wow, I'm 130 pounds, I'm 5'3", and now I'm 110. And I remember I saying to myself, I need to get a grip on this. I need to learn I don't have to eat what everybody else is eating, and I don't have to eat when and what. And I learned how to just discipline myself. And
I know. I remember when we were living in the Keys, and I used to say you ate like a ranch hand.
Yeah. I was a ranch hand down there.
Yeah, you were, but you were always skinny.
Yeah, down there I was very active. In Philadelphia, I was an accountant.
You were always skinny, but you used to like pile on the boniatas. You used to eat all those Cuban potatoes along with. We used to make lamb all the time. So you'd eat all this lamb and potatoes, and I was looking at you like, oh my God, you know.
I finally have a guy here at the Whole Foods tracking down boniatas for me. He's gonna find them.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
People, just for everybody's information, those are Cuban potatoes. They're a red-skinned yam with a white meat inside. That's what they look like, and they're very high in progesterone.
You can cut them and put them on the grill. They're delicious.
Yeah, they're great grilled. So now that we've said this, I just want to touch on, you know, when you were saying that you were traumatized when the doctor told you you had scoliosis, and there's 4 areas that we use to control metabolism. So hold up your finger, and I want you to test, did I lose control of what I ate when I was told that?
Yes. I lost control of just about everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did I lose control of my cycle of rest and activity? So not that, right?
Yeah.
You kept control of that.
Kept control of that. I remember that's what I did control.
Okay. Now, did I lose control of my ability to eliminate?
Yeah, and regulate.
Because what happened was when the doctor told you this terrible news, you couldn't eliminate that.
Yeah.
So you lost control of your ability to eliminate everything.
Yes.
It's a simple, like, we have to control our ability to eliminate things. So that means if somebody tells us something, we have to be able to control eliminating what they tell us.
Oh, that's true. That's I've got a lot of implants from people that way that I've held on to.
And I think Franny has this problem, and it causes her to be heavy. That she has a lot of trouble eliminating what people tell her.
Yeah. Actually, that brings up something. I was wondering your input on this, and you too, Ross. Is there have been times, even recently, when we've been doing these movies, even on this topic, that I thought I've been insecure or unsure about being a smaller person. You know, that bigger person, including friends, like they kind of take advantage of you, or they think they have a judgment of you if you're a small person, that you're not powerful or not, sure of yourself. So sometimes I almost wished I was bigger or been fascinated by bigger people because I wanted to have, I thought it was like a sign of power or control, a different kind of control. But then just recently, after being, having so much time by myself, I kind of just accepted again or enjoyed being on my own rhythm and finding this is who I am naturally. It's just, I feel like I did when I was a kid again. I'm like 14 years old, just running around, riding my bike or just doing whatever I want.
Right.
And have fewer judgments. But that stopped me for a long time. I felt like vulnerable to
now,
like I didn't take up much place in the world, or didn't take up enough room in the world.
Well, it didn't cause you to put weight on, though, so at least it's under control to that extent.
Yeah, because I was always very committed. I didn't want to change, really.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I know. Here's another one to test. When the doctor gave me that awful news, did I lose control over my ability to exercise?
Yep.
So that must have created a terrible problem in your life because you were an athlete.
Yeah, that was really hard. And I tried to do it with, it was hard. And then everything got a little out of whack.
So what we're actually in this program, what we're trying to do with people is we're trying to train them to cure their dysfunctions. See, here's another way to put it. When the doctor told you that, did that hook into dysfunctions that were already there in you?
Yeah, I already had issues around having my emotions flow freely and so forth.
And it just, and so he got, like, you were not emotionally capable, like you weren't functional enough to deal with what he told you.
Right. And in fact, I remember saying to myself when he said that, and I had this projection of me in this brace for the next 4 years, I was thinking, well, maybe this will help me. I sort of talked myself into it. Like, maybe this will help me understand how to, direct my emotions better. Like, I tried to, sort of brainwash myself into thinking it would, work on other levels too. Like, I sort of blame myself for giving myself that solution to what I already thought was an issue about not having enough free flow of emotion in my life or my family's life.
Well, one thing I'm going to say is, like, if somebody is dealing with scoliosis, they should watch this movie.
Yeah, scoliosis. I've been learning a lot about scoliosis as I've been unwinding it. It's definitely
Well, a person who's told they have scoliosis, number one, they need to immediately begin curing it. Number two, they need to immediately deal with any dysfunctions that they have that cause them to not master the situation.
Yes.
That cause them to lose, because what happens is they lose control over basic life functions, such as their ability to exercise, or their ability to breathe, or rest and relax, or be active, or eliminate toxins, or eliminate what people tell them. And they lose control over these things, and they need to immediately, within minutes, take back control. That's the thing that they have to train themselves to do first, at the very beginning. See, we need to do a scoliosis cure program.
We really do. I'd love to do that and help people, because it's definitely an maladaptive response to things, and it could be corrected or avoided if a person catches it soon enough. And it could, the long-term effects of it, or having surgeries, could certainly be avoided.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been a very good session we've had here. I appreciate both of you for your, your brilliance and your clarity and love and caring. And Ross, you're always an inspiration to be with. And
Thank you.
And Barb, you too. You're very inspiring.
And also Nancy, Barb's friend.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. I'm not Nancy. Karen. Thank you. Nancy is another house.
We'll get Nancy on there sometime.
Yeah, we will. Thank you, Karen. Can Karen hear us thanking her?
I'll tell her. She went downstairs for a sec.
Okay. And Ross, do you have anything to add, but like any final words before we stop about what Barb was saying about the scoliosis?
No, I think we said everything.
Great.
I think the only thing I want to add is that doctors consider people like pieces of meat and not human being. Now, I'm not saying that every doctor is like that, but unluckily, many of them are. And that's not fair, because we are human. And you should be careful to what you say to a person. Because I remember when I came home from that first visit, you know what I did? I went to the internet and I looked on Google for that association in Switzerland who does assisted suicide. So can you imagine in what state I was? When I went to the other doctor in the other hospital, he explained carefully to me what eczema was. And he told me, you don't have to worry because we are here for you. It was totally different.
Right.
Very, very nice. He stayed an hour with me just talking.
So the thing, people probably need to, when people select a doctor, they need to realize you're a consumer. You're spending your money with a doctor, even if it's your insurance money or whatever, and you need to find somebody who's providing the service that you want and stay away from the jerks.
Right.
Yeah.
And the ones that aren't providing what you need. So just get what you want,
Yeah, I'd like to add something too on that same line, because when this gentleman, diagnosed me, and he was the best person in the country, apparently, what he saw, was a spine, a crooked spine, a spine that was curved, and he was going to fix it. So, and I was listening to an audio tape of a Mayor Bala lecture or writing, and he was talking about war, and he was saying the way to alleviate war is wage war against the minds that would wage war, like these. So in other words, the doctors there's a way that they're thinking that's bad that we need to wage war against. They're not bad people. They don't know much beyond the third dimensional, construct that a human is. He saw, flesh and bones, and that's what he's trained to look at. And he fixed it. He fixed what he saw that was off. So what we have to do is look at, how do we communicate what we know in a way that they can adapt. Like here in Santa Fe, there are many good doctors, many good.
Well, let's put this another way, okay? You're talking about the doctors who were friends of yours in Santa Fe. I think it might be more relevant to say that we have doctors who are our Facebook friends.
Mm-hmm.
And they're probably going to watch this movie. And some of them are curing their herpes and their other things with what we're teaching them. They're doing this.
That's right.
They know it works. They know it's real. And they don't try to teach it to people because they're afraid of getting sued or because they just don't think anybody's going to get it, or they get it, but they're not, they're not big enough to come in and come to a meeting and actually join the cure team. They're trying to benefit from it without fighting for it, and they're probably going to get a substandard result. But you still have to realize that they're good people. They're just helpless,
right?
And they're just not strong enough. And like my friend Louis was valedictorian in his medical school class, and he was still a jerk. And I love him, but he's a jerk, and he's scared. He's frightened. He's a frightened person. It's just they're human beings. They're suffering, weak human beings who are wrong a lot, like everybody else.
Yeah,
and we try to stick with God and get signals and know what to do that way, and they just need to do more of that. Probably they just need to do more IMMUNICS and they'll get better.
God, if I would have been doing this earlier on, God knows what I would have been able to do. I mean, it's so obvious to me now. I could have corrected if I knew how to, just align with these forces earlier on in my life, but that's the way it goes.
All right, well then I will...